Episode 59, Introduction of the Newbies, April 1943. At the moment, the days go by very slowly since, in actually the entire sector of the front, a deceiving calm prevails. We don't have much to do. We dedicate a lot of time to our Rosinante and attempt, here and there, to make slight improvements. A lot of the replacement personnel are also being trained. I, as one of the older ones, have also been assigned a few tasks. That means for me that new tank men on arrival at the regiment have to report to the respective company, and they're assigned to the platoons. Then it goes on to the platoon leaders, who receive the comrades. Now follows the flow through the individual areas to become familiar with the companies and platoons. If they are long-serving veterans, that's usually quickly taken care of. With the newbies, it looks a bit different. Therefore, it's then somewhat selective. Of 10 men, 6 remain, who have to be roughly familiarized. Since there's some more quiet for us at the moment and no locally limited offensives are planned, I now too have taken the new ones under my wings for a few days. As a rule of thumb, there are always drivers, loaders, gunners, and radio operators among them, but they all receive the same guidance at the front. So I have the gang in tow and take care that they know and find everything to get around in a frontline command unit. It's going to the quarters there. First of all, the sleeping hall is assigned, until finally a crew will take over the comrade. Then it's also possible that they are housed elsewhere, meaning with the tank crew. But in the end, the regular soldier just wants a warm place to sleep. Anything more is frontline luxury. Otherwise, I feel like a mother goose who is being followed by all. We run from A to B, and I answer many questions. One can notice that the young people still want to get at it with fire in their hearts to finally show inside the tank what they can do. But this breeze has to be taken out of those boys' sails. I march over to the tank workshop where the long-serving mechanics are pulling their crude jokes on the new arrivals. We have 2 damaged tanks with penetrating hits, which are supposed to go home to the Reich. I show these vehicles and allow the new arrivals to climb into the tank. It's not pretty inside there. Remnants of blood are still visible inside the combat compartment. I tell that men have died here. Also, the armor was not sufficient. If one was shot at from the side by an anti-tank gun or a SU, Russian assault gun, it always depended where the shell impacted or penetrated. One can see in the faces that the one or the other does become reflective. Of course, one can always see in the weekly news show how the black hussars with their steel tracks race through the Russian expanse. The war report will then serve these successes in good manner to the eager audience. But reality also readily offers death and injury. The blood toll is paid, and I ask the comrades what they believe, why they were joining us. Definitely not because everyone's on leave. They're missing, are wounded, or worse. That's how it looks. I do realize that this isn't the best welcome at the front, but whoever has a misguided image of heroic combat quickly throws himself into a situation which can cost lives. It's not a game. The Russian shoots back. Over and over, the men's eyes wander from my mouth to my decorations, and one can notice that they would also like to have an iron cross on their chest. That, I'm also glad to explain. It wasn't just a matter of courage, but luck also played a role. Don't try to snatch a metal insignia at all cost. Too many already have died for a tin necktie, or have sent men to their deaths. Of course, such a knight's cross looks good, but to risk it all for that, the boys appear disappointed. I now take them over to the shooting range, where the weapons are sighted in. The master armorer explains what's done here, and we're allowed to watch how a 75 mm is sighted in. Later, there's a brief shot with the grenadiers, and there's a short lecture by an old staff sergeant who's probably been deployed everywhere. Highly decorated, He explains the cooperation between foot soldiers and tanks. Of course, they've heard all this at training courses already, but here at the front it all sounds quite different. Then toward evening, we also experience a few bombs dropped nearby, and there's plenty of rattle. For us here, that's normal, but the newbies are quivering considerably. I sign off with the captain in the evening and dismiss the new arrivals. Still over to Schmidt to chat a little, and then later write a few letters. Also finally again some time to sketch a little bit, and I put my impressions of the day on paper. The days continue to drag on. One has the feeling that both sides are stalking each other to attack at the next moment. Schmidt and I discuss the situation at the front. On my assorted maps it doesn't look too bad. I believe we're not going to stay here for long, another month, then things will really get going again. I assume that the generals will replenish all divisions, and then it'll once again go properly in an easterly direction. Since nothing else is pending, I'm again helping out in the tank workshop. A bit of labor passes the time. I help with sighting in, and indeed I also learn from the workshop men how to drive the tank. At first, it's just short introductory rides, but then the entire way to the shooting range and back, it's not bad as long as one can properly see. But with a closed hatch, it does get difficult, and one must pay close attention to what instructions the commander issues over the radio. During combat, that becomes really difficult. That way I can better comprehend how strenuous it can become for the driver. On the next day finally comes an assignment. Well, a real assignment it is not, but we're supposed to accompany a supply column with a few trucks and armored personnel carriers. There have already been raids by Russian troops having filtered through together with partisans to weaken our supply. Thus we get on the way to move out with the convoy. It's only 20 kilometers, but there's always a lot that can happen. We drive in the lead, behind us an armored personnel carrier, then the trucks, and at the end another, a PC. I would have liked to take some reconnaissance along, but those were busy elsewhere. We rumble off and have planned on 2 hours for the trip. We're tense and in readiness, but the longer we ride, the less we have the feeling that something will still happen here. A few planes in the sky, but nothing else. We've handed over the trucks safely, and with an armored personnel carrier, we drive back again. It's already late afternoon, but we'll make it in time to get back before darkness. Half the way we have behind us when the driver reports that the engine was overheating. Damn it, probably a coolant problem. The APC stops, we take a look at what's wrong. It appears that the radiator apparently has a crack, and therefore isn't holding enough water anymore. Senior Ensign Krugstein remarks that he'd seen a pond on our way in, roughly a kilometer away. The armored personnel carrier receives the order to fetch some water, and except for 3 grenadiers, the others dismount and secure the area. I'm standing by the driver's hatch and watch as the APC drives around us and then speeds up down the trail. It's close to 100 meters away when there's a giant boom. The rear of the APC is flung upward, and in 2 pieces the vehicle lands back on the road. I saw bodies get tossed out. We race off to help. We find 2 men next to the vehicle who actually were ejected and are severely injured. The driver is dead and is hanging in the remains of the driver's compartment. It was either a mine or an explosive charge. There's no one to be seen. Also, there are no shots fired. We care for the wounded, but I don't think that the 2 of them will make it. The tank is brought up. We place the grenadiers onto the rear. Now we have to see to it to get out of here. It all does not appear comfortable to me. With an overheated engine, we actually reach the pond. The filthy water is poured through a sock into the radiator, so not all the dirt gets in. The driver reports that the temperature is going down and we're able to drive on. But progress is only slow. We secure to all sides. It's already dusk when we finally spot the outskirts of the small town where we made ourselves comfortable. One of the grenadiers has died along the way. Carefully we lift him off the tank. The other one is taken to the medic, though I think that he won't keep his legs. If we had driven over the explosive charge ourselves, it probably would have torn us to pieces as well. That was indeed a heavy charge that was buried there. They must have done this right after we'd passed. Otherwise, it would have already gone off on our way in. We report the incident, and we're put on heightened alert until the matter has been cleared up. We take Rosinante over to the repair unit and help in removing the damaged radiator. Replacement ones aren't on hand, but the resourceful comrades have a way to seal the crack. Around 9 p.m., the tank engine is running again without any problems. For the next day, a reconnaissance mission is planned, so we chase away these troublemakers on the supply roads. I asked the commander whether it was all right if I rode along there, and he gives me his approval. So, just something to eat, and then off to the quarter for the night. Tomorrow it's getting up early again. Mail has finally arrived. Gudrun wrote me a nice letter. How much she missed me, and that at home everything was all right. She also sent a photo along. I look at it for a long time. Yes, my Gudrun, what a pretty girl. My wife. Home leave would be something, but I can probably write that off for the moment. I don't even need to ask before August. There's too few experienced personnel at the front. Even if not much is happening, the platoon and company leaders like to have their men around. One can never know what the Russian is up to. Well then, I write down a few lines, but I'm lacking the right motivation. It's also been a long day, and I think it's better to grab a cup of sleep. One of the new guys stops by and asks me where the senior ensign was. He'd be in his quarters, I assume. What he was up to, I briefly inquire, and he explains that he would be the new radio operator. Strangely, Peter, our radio operator, didn't mention anything about wanting to leave the crew. I have to find out and quickly walk over to him once more. Peter tells that he'd volunteered for a tanker training course on the Panzer v. Panther at the tank training school in Erlangen, and apparently there was demand. Well, I'll have to have another talk with the Sarge tomorrow. That can't be quite right to pull our people from the crew. We'll check it out. For now, it's off for some sleep.